these guys signed the Declaration of Independence. Obviously, the war is going to last till 1783, the American Revolution. All right, and so during that time, really the only governing body is this Second Continental Congress. Okay, and they're trying to get money from each of the colonies to support the war effort, to arm Washington's army, to give them uniforms, to give them muskets, to give them bullets. It's a very difficult time in America. The war will be fought from, the north all the way down to the south. I don't know if you guys have ever, thank you. Have you guys ever watched the movie The Patriot with Mel Gibson? It's a great movie, but it's about the war in the South, okay? And that movie, the character that Mel Gibson plays is kind of a mixture of like three different Southern commanders, okay? You have the Gamecock, what is that other guy's name? The Daniel Morgan, and there's a third guy. They kind of morph these three guys into one character for the movie. But yeah, the South, I mean, you could see the militia fighting and the Continental Army, and then even the French helping out in the South as well. So really good Revolutionary War movie. So as when we break away, we go from 13 colonies basically to 13 countries. And in these 13 countries, they all need a constitution. Okay, and so almost immediately Jefferson leaves Philadelphia and goes back to Virginia to write Virginia's their constitution. They all need new constitutions because they're all independent countries now. The only thing tying these independent countries together is the Second Continental Congress. It won't be till the Articles of Confederation in 1781 that they actually have a unifying constitution. Okay, so really it's just this body and Independence Hall holding them together. So the next slide, we're going to look at these state constitutions, okay? And these are going to tell us a lot about how the early Americans felt about government, okay? So these new state governments, new state constitutions, they all reflect the desire for limited government. Okay, remember, we are breaking away from what we view as a tyrannical government that is, denying Americans their rights. So all of the 13 had bicameral. Does everybody remember what bicameral means? Bi means two, right? Two what? Two chambers, two houses. With the exception of Pennsylvania, they will have a unicameral legislature. Okay? Today we have 50 states. All right? 49 of the 50 states have bicameral legislatures. In Kansas, we have a state house and a state senate. Does anybody know which state of the 50 does not have a bicameral, and it's not Pennsylvania? Anybody want to guess? No, but thanks for playing.
Wyoming?
No, but thank you.
Texas.
Nope. You say Vermont? Nope. Alaska? No. $45 left.
Delaware?
What?
Delaware?
Nope.
Hawaii?
Hawaii? Nope. Kansas? I just said has a bicameral.
Rhode Island?
Nope. Nope. Loosen up, man. It's in this part of the country. Nope. Nope. Nebraska. In fact, Mrs. Lovelace's grandfather served in that legislature. The only unicameral one in the. I was up in Omaha 2 of the last 3 weekends, up in Nebraska, and this whole energy problem with this huge, cold front that, settled upon us, and what the wreaking havoc in Texas, right? You guys have been hearing about they're having really bad problems. My brother-in-law and sister-in-law live in Houston, and they've been without power for like 2 days. It's 40 degrees in their house, and they have to boil their water to make sure that it's safe to drink. Okay, so they're having some serious issues there. And I was listening to the radio because I listen to AM, and there was a state legislator on there from the unicameral talking about these energy problems in Nebraska. So they were having some too, but it's pretty interesting. Okay, so all right, we'll move on from that. So they all have a bicameral legislature except for Pennsylvania, and they're going to restrict the power of their governors. Okay, they don't want a lot of power in the hands of one person. Okay, so the power is going to remain with the legislature at the bicameral level. Okay, today, if you look at different states, some governors of some states have a lot of power. Some governors don't have a lot of power based on their state constitutions. Okay, so like in Texas, the governor does not have a lot of power. Okay, Kansas, the governor has quite a bit of power. Governor Kelly does, but she has restrictions. So, like on the mask mandate, okay, at the beginning, I mean, she shut down schools, right? Last year, she was the one that did that. She had the power to do that. But as she started putting in restrictions, the state legislature said, hold up, Governor. This needs to be decided at a local level. Okay, so Wichita is different than Kansas City. You understand? So, like, I can just tell you based on, like, these volleyball tournaments that we're doing, in Wichita, you can have, 2 fans, 2 parents can come, okay? But the volleyball tournaments in Kansas City, no fans. So the parents drive kids up there and sit in the car while they play, okay? Which really pisses me off. But it's a situation where you have local control, and basically the state legislature said to Governor Kelly, no. This is going to be decided by county, not by the whole state. Because every county is different. I mean, really. I mean, you get Western Kansas versus Kansas City, it's a totally different situation, right? So they really want to restrict the power of the governors. They don't want, and then they hold yearly elections. So if they don't like that governor, we're getting them out of there real quick. We're not going to have to wait 4 years or 2 years every year. Now, can you imagine having yearly elections? Our elections in this country, Europe makes fun of us because like our presidential elections are really like 14 months long. Theirs are like 6 weeks. I mean, that's it. And they're like, what is wrong with these people? Okay. And in our gubernatorial elections for governor, in Kansas, I mean, it's not 14 months, but it's probably 10 months. Okay. So you would govern for 2 months and then start running for re-election. Okay, I don't know how they did that. Most states have 4-year terms for governors today. Okay, so another thing that we find in these state constitutions, okay, are individual rights. Okay, so most of these new constitutions encompass individual rights that echo the English Bill of Rights that we talked about. The English Bill of Rights, things like right to bear arms, no quartering soldiers, trial by jury, no taxation without the Parliament's approval or the legislature's approval. Okay, and then some of the states expanded voting rights. And if you were listening earlier, a lot of our colonial assemblies were made up of white male property owners. Okay, you had to own property. 5 states in 1790 allowed all white male taxpayers to vote. So you didn't have to own property, but you had to be a taxpayer, and you had to be white, and you had to be male. Now, I know, guys, this isn't, I mean, look, this is 1790. Women are going to have to wait 130 years to vote. You understand? African American and colored men will have to wait till 1866, so about 90 years, okay, almost 100 years. All right, so yeah, I mean, this is a baby step of expanding voting rights. Okay, it's not. Um, we've got a long way to go in American history here. Okay, separation of powers. Okay, so 3 branches of government. All these state constitutions will set up 3 branches of government. Okay, which are going to mirror our national government when we get it. Okay, and just the principle of self-government. I mean, the key here is that they don't trust government and they don't want to give it a lot of power and they want it to remain in local control with your representatives. Okay. One other thing I want to mention here is that some of these state constitutions had a religious requirement to run for office. So if you wanted to be governor of a certain state, some of the states said you had to be of a particular religion to run for office. Like you had to be Episcopalian, or you had to be Quaker, or you had to be Methodist. Okay? This is not good. Okay? And so if you were, say you were Catholic and you lived in one of these states, you would not be able to run for office. Okay? And when they write the new Constitution, they look at these state constitutions and they say, what's wrong with these state constitutions? What can we do better? And that religious test to run for office, that's got to go. So that's the first right they put in the new Constitution, the Bill of Rights, is freedom of religion. That's your first right. Okay, so there's no religious test to run for office. You don't have to be a Christian, okay? You can run for office in this country. Okay? You don't have to be of any religion. All right, so that was an important lesson learned from these state constitutions, if that makes sense. Okay. All right, so the first national government, and guys, I have a confession to make, and I don't know if any of you guys even figured it out. Your first assignment in this class was page 50. Worth 11 points, right? I don't know if you remember that. It was over the Articles of Confederation. Okay, in chapter 2. So that was your first assignment that you did during chapter 1. Did anybody catch on to that? Nobody noticed? Do you read the homework you're doing? Or do you just answer the questions and not read it? It's okay. We both screwed up. All right. So you didn't screw up. I screwed up. Okay. So if you still have that, I mean, it's on Canvas. When you submit something on Canvas, like a file, can you go back in and look at it? Okay. So I don't have notes over this because you did the homework for it. Okay. But let me do a quick review of this first Constitution, the Articles of Confederation. One thing you did learn in chapter 1 was confederal government, okay? So remember this, the boxes? So the national government was really small, and the state and local governments had all the power. You guys remember that, right? Okay, so that's what kind of government we had, the first Constitution, all right? Because why? They did not trust the national government. You follow me? So they didn't give it any power. They could not tax. Okay? So how are they going to raise money? They can't tax. They have to ask the states for money. When you don't have money, you don't have any power. Okay? It's a one branch government. It's a one branch. Okay? And each state gets one representative. So the national government is made up of 13 representatives. There's no executive branch. There's no judicial branch. It's just 13 people. And in order to pass anything in this, you got to have 9 of 13. Now, they did choose one of their own to be the leader of the 13. Okay, he wasn't called the president, though. but he was the first president. The first president of the United States was John Hanson, under the Articles of Confederation. He was the first leader of this government. Okay, but he was not a chief executive because there was no executive branch. Now, the executive branch carries the sword. The legislative branch carries the purse. They control the money, the legislature, but they have no money. They can print money, but so can the states. Oh, crap. This thing was not well designed. So let's say they want to do something. And you got to get 9 votes to do it. One of the problems we had early on, guys, were border disputes between the states or navigation rights. Like, who gets to control navigation through the Chesapeake Bay? Is it going to be Maryland? Is it going to be Virginia? They started fighting over this. And some states have better ports, like where you're doing trade, you're bringing in ships. Some states have better ports than others. And so the states that had ports were charging taxes for people to bring goods through their state. So you had all this friction between the states. And there's no judicial branch to settle the disputes between the states. This country was falling apart. Okay, so this system didn't work, the Articles of Confederation, for us. And George Washington noticed this. Okay, he had fought. When George Washington left for Philadelphia in 1775, he told his wife, "I'll be home for Christmas." He left in May. He came home 8 Christmases later, after the American Revolution. Okay? Now, all this work that he did was falling apart. In Europe, because this had never been done before, guys. Nobody had ever started a country from scratch like this, with a social contract. And so the people in Europe were just waiting for us to fail. They saw it coming. They said, these people, they don't know how to do this. They're going to fail. And George Washington's like, we are making the prediction come true. We need to fix this. And then you get a couple of young, smart people involved as well. Like a guy named James Madison and a guy named Alexander Hamilton. You guys, any Hamilton fans in here? Okay. Okay, so you know a little bit about his background if you've watched the show Hamilton. You know, that play is based off Ron Chernow's book, Hamilton, which I've got under the podium there. Hamilton was a bastard child from the Virgin Islands. Okay, so his father was from Scotland, and he met a local woman there in the Virgin Islands and had relations with her. Alexander Hamilton was born. Okay, but guys, talk about a talented young man, very smart. Okay, literally a genius. Okay, I mean, they say this is the guy that's going to ace the ACT test or the SAT. He's going to ace it. Okay. By the age of 13, Alexander Hamilton had gone to work for a shipping company in the Virgin Islands. Now, what are they shipping in the Virgin Islands? Any idea? Sugar, molasses, right? And slaves. Okay. So the owner of this big shipping company in the Virgin Islands is going to go to Europe. It's going to take him, 6 months to go there and come back. He leaves this 13-year-old boy in charge of this shipping company while he leaves and is gone for 6 months. Okay. When he comes back, everything's running smoothly. Okay. In fact, it's running more efficiently than ever. Okay. So a group of businessmen, along with this ship owner, sponsor Hamilton to go to the United States or up to the States to be educated. And he shows up at William and Mary and says, I want to study law. And they said, because guys, there's a whole thing to study law. You got to do apprenticeships, and it takes years. Okay, and he's like, no, just give me the books. Okay, 6 months later, he comes back and passes the bar exam. Okay, learned it all on his own. When the revolution broke out, Alexander Hamilton joined the cause, joined Washington's army, Continental Army. He read some books about artillery, okay, cannon, and right away people noticed just how smart this guy was running the artillery, and Washington noticed it. He's like, got to know him. He's like, this kid is smart, and he made him his aide de camp. So Washington and Hamilton have this special relationship that they bonded during the war. Okay, and Washington realizes what he has in this friend, Hamilton, an amazing mind. Okay, Madison is a 5'4", 5'5", sickly little bookworm, nerdish, well-studied. By the age of 12, he was studying things that we learned in graduate school. He learned different languages. He knew several languages. He was another brilliant young man, but sickly. And he was probably going to be a pastor. He was going to go into religion, but Thomas Jefferson noticed him. And so Jefferson kind of brought Madison under his wing. So these two men, Hamilton and Madison, are going to be huge for this new Constitution. And it's that relationship that they had with Washington and Jefferson that's going to allow them to come in and really help write this new Constitution. Okay, because Washington's like, we have to change this Constitution. It's not working. Okay, so that's kind of setting up where we're going here. All right. So in 1787, May, they decide to get back together in the same building, Independence Hall, to write a brand new Constitution. Now, originally when they got there, they said, well, we're just going to fix it. And then they realized we need to just scrap the whole thing and start over. Okay? Now, guys, the reason why we're going to spend quite a bit of time talking about this is because these 3 months, which turns out to be one of the hottest summers in Philadelphia in 30 years, okay? These 3 months are going to chart the course of the future of this country, okay? We are still reaping the benefits of what happened in this room over that 3-month period, okay? And so we need to look at what happened during this convention, all right? There's going to be 55 men from the 13 states, okay? Got to start using states instead of colonies now, okay? Of the 55, 8 had signed the Declaration of Independence. 7 of them had been to the First Continental Congress. And 7 of them were governors of their states. So you're going to send your governor away from your state for 3 months. This is how important this is, this Constitutional Convention, okay? And it's a who's who. Now, there's some important people that are not there. And there's some important people, obviously, that are there. Who is there? Ben Franklin is still alive. Okay, he's in his 80s now. The life expectancy in 1770s was 42 years old. He's in his 80s. Okay. Franklin has traveled the world. He loved France. He's a dirty old man. The French women liked Franklin. Okay. Washington, the victor of the American Revolution, the commander-in-chief, is there. Okay. When he walks in the room, people are in awe of George Washington. He defeated the British. Okay. he brings gravitas to this convention. He brings a weight. He brings an authority, and they're going to make him the chairman or the president of this convention. Okay, that's him seated at the top. Okay. Hamilton, that I mentioned, will arrive. And who's not there? There's a couple people that, 3 or 4 here. Jefferson. Does anybody know where Jefferson is? He became our first ambassador to France. Yes, Jefferson is in France. Now, his wife died. Jefferson's wife passed away. And so he had a daughter. He took his daughter and one of his slaves with him to France. Okay. That slave was a woman named Sally Hemings. Okay. Sally had been in the Jefferson family of slaves for a few generations. Her family had. And so Sally was, as they said, mighty near white. She was very light-skinned because it is thought that Jefferson, either his father or his uncle, was the father of Sally Hemings. You understand? So one of them slept with Sally's mother. She was born. She became Jefferson's slave. And during their stay in France, Sally bore children. Jefferson's children. You understand? So there is a group of descendants of the Hemings family with Jefferson DNA in it that are African Americans, okay, in this country today. Okay. Now, what would be gross is if that was his sister, if her dad was, his dad was her father. You know what I mean? Are you following this? But they think it was his uncle. Okay. It was fairly common, guys. Okay, it wasn't talked about a lot. It wasn't, but Jefferson in the end gave her the option to stay in France or come back when he came back to Virginia. And she opted to stay in France where she was free. Okay. That's an interesting thing. That's in one of these videos I'm going to post for you guys. Okay. But with these 2 videos, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put them out there. I'll put them up on Canvas. And before the test, if you want to watch these 2 videos, it'll help you just remember what's all this whole thing. They're really good. Okay. It's done by the History Channel. If you're doing a video over something that took place 200 plus years ago, they do a really good job of it. Okay. So Patrick Henry. Okay, I mentioned him in my lecture yesterday. In order to get the 13 colonies to go for independence, you needed Virginia. And Patrick Henry gave that impassioned speech at the Virginia Convention where he said, give me liberty, give me death. Okay, that convinced Virginia to vote for independence. Okay, Patrick Henry is not going to this convention. He was invited, but he said no. Why? Patrick Henry was worried because we're going to create a federal system, right? Where the boxes are all the same size, yes? But the federal government or the national government does have supremacy in this new constitution. And Patrick Henry is worried that this new government that we're going to establish is going to give too much power to the national government. He said, I smell a rat, and I'm not going to participate in this. So he refused to go. Maybe he should have gone and got his opinion out there, but I don't know. Okay. The other guy that's not there is John Adams. John Adams, the guy that was the driving force for independence. He's the first ambassador to, anyone know where he was the ambassador to? Britain. Talk about awkward. Remember, I said yesterday, John Adams was the driving force for independence. And now he's the ambassador to the country that he got independence from. So in that movie I've been talking, I don't know if I've mentioned this John Adams film that HBO did. It's a 9-hour miniseries. John Adams has to go to England. He goes to London to meet the king, King George. Okay, and back in those days, I mean, there's still a lot of protocols when you meet the Queen of England. I mean, like, you don't say, "Hey, what's up, Queen? Give me 5," or go give her a big hug. You don't hug the Queen. You don't touch the Queen. Okay, unless she reaches out a hand or something like that, then you can touch her. But so John Adams had to like humble himself. I mean, when you walk in the room, the king's sitting literally on a throne. You're not allowed to look him in the eye. You have to bow when you enter the room, face the king, bow again, and then you're not allowed to speak unless spoken to. So John Adams had to go do that with the king, which is pretty awkward. All right, it's kind of a funny story. All right, so those three are not there, and Madison. This is Madison over here in the bottom left. Okay, he's obviously there. Okay, Washington's named chairman of the convention, and James Madison will become known as the father of the Constitution. So this is Chernow's book, Hamilton, that the play is based off of. Okay, it's pretty good. It's a lot. I've read through it. I haven't read the whole thing, but in reading through this, in preparation for the Constitutional Convention, guys, Madison and Hamilton are actually going to meet before this in Annapolis, Maryland. And I was in Annapolis 2 summers ago for a wedding, 100-degree outdoor wedding. Oh, that was miserable. So I went around looking for in Annapolis where Madison and Hamilton met, because they met before this convention and started laying out some plans. Okay, and I found the building where they met, took a picture of it. I should have it in my notes, but I know. Anyhow, Madison is going to bring with him okay. Maybe somebody borrowed it. Okay, he's going to bring with him a plan of government. Madison. Where's Madison from? He's friends with Jefferson. He's from Virginia. What's the name of the plan he's going to bring? The Virginia plan. Does that ring a bell from last year, maybe? Virginia plan? Okay. All right. So he's going to bring the Virginia plan, which is not what the Constitution is going to be, but it is a framework that they will work from. Okay. So we're going to talk about these 2 plans that they're going to debate. The Virginia plan, does anybody remember the other plan from another state? Got a 1 in 12 shot. The New Jersey plan, okay? The New Jersey plan. Now, those will be the basis that we work off. On the test, you're going to have to compare and contrast the Virginia plan and the resulting 3rd plan that comes out of that, okay? So that's what we'll get into. So Madison's Virginia plan, and then what he did, guys, when he proposed this Virginia plan, he didn't even do it himself. He had another guy do it for him, Edmund Randolph, and he watched the room. He watched the reaction, and then he took notes on the debate that was going on over this form of government. Those notes we still have. So we know what was said during the convention about these different topics dealing with the new government, which is important to have context about what they were arguing about. So we know the original intent of the authors of the Constitution. Does that make sense? We want to know what they were thinking when they did it. Not just the words, we need context to that. And Madison provides that for us. For posterity, we have those. Okay, and that's why he gets the name, Father of the Constitution. Okay, because he's the one that really was prepared for this and then gave us notes on what took place. Okay, so we jump in. This is Madison's handwriting. Okay, this is the Virginia plan. Okay, so this is going to be important for the test. All right, you have to write about this. So we're going to create and you might throw in here strong central government. Okay, a strong central government like this federal government, stronger federal government. Okay, a bicameral legislature. We all know what that is, and then a strong executive judiciary. So 3-branch government, where each branch is going to have power. You're going to be strong, and the national government is going to be stronger, definitely than it was under the Articles. Okay. What does that look like? So one of the big debates here is going to be over how we elect that bicameral legislature. Okay, who gets to elect them? How many? How will they be divided up? This sort of thing. So under Madison's plan, the Congress or the legislature would be based on the population of the state. So the more people you have in your state, the more representatives you have. That's democratic. Okay? States with larger populations receive more reps. These are the largest states population-wise at the time. Okay? Virginia, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Maryland, North Carolina. So the people get to choose the first house, and then that house elects state's nominees for the second house. So the state puts up some people, and then the first house chooses the second house. Now I got a question for you. Got a question for you here, guy. Stop what you're doing right now. Members of the executive would be chosen by the legislature. What type of system is that? The executive is chosen. Say it. Parliamentary. Remember we learned that? You guys remember that? Okay. Is that what we have today? And here? No. So obviously, guys, so this didn't happen. So the Virginia plan was not the Constitution. Okay. They're going to change that. Okay. But good job. Okay. So, but that's an interesting idea to have members of the executive and judiciary chosen by the legislature. That really does give the legislature a lot of power. Okay. Because they actually get to choose the other house and the executive and the judges. Okay. So they're going to debate this. Okay. And then there's one more thing, and then we'll start with the New Jersey plan tomorrow. The national government is going to be supreme. It's going to have power over the states. They're going to be able to levy taxes, which they didn't have under the Articles, make national laws. Now, this scares people. So you're going to have this small body in a capital far away from where you live, making laws for you. This is scary for people. They don't want to give that much power to government. Okay? But Madison thinks we have to do this, that in order for the country to run successfully, we need to allow for national laws and to regulate trade. Okay? Trade between countries and trade between states. The national government's going to be able to regulate that. Oh boy, we're giving them quite a bit of power. Okay? And that is the basis that they're going to work from. And then in my lecture on Monday, I will get into the New Jersey plan. Okay, and then the resulting compromise between the two is called the Great Compromise. Okay, And that's what you'll be writing, one of the long answer questions on your test. You're gonna have two. Okay. All right.